I'm throwing something. It's just the dog keeps giving me his.
The seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat, then I ain't taking, son.
So this is, Sabacc?
Sabacc.
Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Sabacc the Block, the official First Cut Star Wars show. We are here to break down last night's episode of the ACOLYTE. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about Sabine Wren. Joining us to do that, we have Candace from Geeky Waffle in the house. What is up, Candace?
I'm emotionally conflicted after yesterday's episode.
Yes.
But in a good way, in a very good way.
In a good way. Yeah, it's definitely so hard not to get to it right now because it's definitely the thing that a lot of people want to talk about right away. But before we do anything in this show, what we always do is ask our guests, what is your Star Wars story? So Candace, what is your Star Wars story?
1997, my dad took me to see the special editions in theaters. I thought, oh no, an old movie. And I remember even as like a small child, I was like, I'll just humor him. And, you know, I can take a nap if it's boring. He takes me to all these Disney movies. I might as well see what this is about. And instantly, like, once Princess Leia, like, was standing up to Darth Vader, who I already knew was a scary villain, even though I had no context, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And that's it. That just, like, I was like, I'm all in. Haven't stopped.
I feel like, I don't know, I've had back-to-back guests, like millennial guests, who have the exact same story, which is exactly my story as well. I also grew up with the special edition right before the prequels came out.
We were lucky that we had waited a couple years.
Exactly.
People had been waiting a while.
It got us to fall in love with the original before obviously attaching ourselves to the prequels, which is obviously what I did. It was efficiently handled, just the way they did it, releasing the toys at the same time as well, which I obviously bought all of them. It's crazy to think about in the past, but my first theater experience was Phantom Menace. I saw the special edition VHS tapes. So I did not get to experience the originals in theaters in any capacity, which is difficult, but I've pushed through. All right, let's move on to our green Psylocke for today.
If you'd only had this little green Psylocke.
Our green Psylocke for today is all about Sabine Wren. I asked you, Candace, on DMs, what is who is a Star Wars character that is near and dear to your heart? And you answered Sabine. So I want to ask right away, what does Sabine mean to you?
I'm half Indian, and having Tia Secure play Sabine, you can like kind of put like your own background into it. So just having this character who is the main character, who ends up like, especially after she comes back from Mandalore, she is like right with Ezra. That's her story too. So just having someone with the same background as me as a main character in Star Wars was amazing. And then also she's an artist, and she's so independent and strong, but she's also really flawed. And those are just like my favorite kind of characters that have tragic things happen to them and they overcome them.
Yeah, that's something I wrote in my notes, and that's something I wrote when I wrote about some of my favorite new Star Wars characters. I put Sabine in my top 3. I put Rey Kylo as my top 2. But at number 3, at a solid number 3 was Sabine, because I do feel like that's something that kind of goes overlooked in Sabine's story. Everyone sees her as the badass Mandalorian who helps out the rebellion, but I see her as like someone who's torn between these two worlds, where she does have such a deep connection to her cultural and familial history that it's difficult for her to see her family kind of falling into the waves of the empire and being taken over that. And part of her hero's journey is awakening her people to the lies of the empire and trying to pull them back and make them turn away from this kind of imperial brainwashing, which is so super relevant to today's world, just on a different level as far as how relevant that is. But it's part of her story as well. I do feel like that's something that people forget. Her cultural background is something that makes her so much more endearing and compelling of a character.
Yeah, definitely. She's so many layers to her, and I actually like that we didn't know too much about her the first few seasons, and that was just because she was so guarded and hidden away because her family literally abandoned her because of the Empire. And that reveal in Trials of the Darksaber was so earned. And the performance, the music, the animation, it was just beautiful. It's like one of my favorite episodes in all of Star Wars TV, live action or animated.
Yeah, it's amazing. The other stuff I have for you is Rebels. What is it about Rebels that makes these characters? Because I really do feel like you can go to each character in Rebels from the main Rebels crew and make a compelling argument that they're one of the best or some of the best Star Wars characters. What is it about this show that allows that and lets them have this opportunity to shine?
Yeah, I see your little Hera Funko in the background over there. She's just staring at me. I love Clone Wars. Clone Wars, don't get me wrong, amazing. But you jump around in the timeline a lot, and then you jump around with characters. Rebels is so focused on this one group and their dynamic. They live in this small ship together. They have the same fight, but they all come from very different places. And I love the found family trope. That's always one of my favorites because I have a lot of friends who are just my family. So it's something I relate to. And yeah, it's a coming of age tale too. You really see Ezra and Sabine growing up. And it's so much fun to see like them first season and then you see them at the finale and how much they've grown.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I really do feel like they nail it. And throughout the entire show, throughout the entire series, how do you feel about her transition to live action, her live action version, the performance, and kind of what they did with her character in Ahsoka?
I think Natasha did a great job. I am sad that Dave didn't really include any of her Mandalorian-ness in Ahsoka, because that would be even like you talked about having that conflict of like these two worlds. Well, now she has three worlds: Jedi, Mandalorian, Rebels, and we obviously know Mandalorians and Jedis don't always get along. And especially her mother being a night owl, they got some history there. So it would have been nice to kind of explore that. I really wish maybe if we had like flashbacks of when Ahsoka was starting to train her, that kind of could have been kind of gone into. But I think it was Sabine. I was just so happy. Like after the finale of the Rebels, I wrote like, when am I getting my Ahsoka and Sabine book? That's what I just expected. I didn't expect we would ever get like an actual live action series. And Ahsoka's one of my other favorite characters. So I'm like, oh my gosh, my two favorite characters just like going on adventures together. Who could be so lucky?
So are you cool with her making her a Jedi, them making her a Jedi?
I like the idea that being a Jedi is different things. And I really do love like anyone technically could use the Force, because I like when I was a little kid playing, I was like, well, what if I just wasn't born with the Force and I couldn't be a Jedi? Because that's what I wanted to be. I think all of us just wanted a lightsaber. So I like the idea that anybody can, if they work hard enough. It's just like any talent, really. If you work hard enough at it, not every talent, but a lot of talents.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't had too much of, I mean, we have obviously with Rebels, we can see how do you bring your skill set to a battle or to a dire situation like the rebellion is always in without having superpowers, right? And I do find that interesting, and I kind of did like having Sabine use her training and use her experience in a different way, and also use her artistic ability. I really do feel like that's one of the best parts of Rebels is that's her superpower too, is her artistic eye and the way that she's able to decipher not just, pieces, but situations using her artistic eye, which I do feel I just hope we see more of that in her live
Oh,
action
definitely.
version, because I do feel like that's something that there's like two things I really wanted from the Ahsoka show that I didn't get. One was like, just give me just Sabine going nuts on a wall or on a ship and just painting. I think that'd
Yeah.
be really cool to tell the audience who she is. A lot of audience members who don't watch Rebels and who will never watch Rebels. And I think that would let them know that she's really, really an artist. And then two was, give me Ezra with animals. Just give me like one scene where Ezra is like commanding a herd with his like animal powers, because I do feel like that's what makes him such a unique Jedi compared to every other Jedi we've seen before. So I do hope we see that from Sabine, a little bit more of that. But I do like what you said, the opportunity for her to tap into the force without it being some like thing I was born with and I've always used it kind of thing, which I do think is cool. Where would you like to see her live action version obviously go in the future?
I would like her to explore a little bit more being a Mandalorian as well as a Jedi. That's such an important part. I just want to see her, with her rebel family. And, because I feel like she, in season 1, she really like kind of reverted back to the teenager we saw at the beginning of Rebels, because that's what kind of happens when traumatic things happen to you. You revert to a childlike state. She's listening to like music. She's living on her own. She's like only talking to Hera, really. And yeah, she's like was so different at the end of Rebels.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many things they can do with her character, which I am excited for. Obviously, she's now stuck with Ahsoka, which I think gives
Yeah.
her an opportunity to train more, which would be really cool. But also, I'm curious what else they're going to do with her character. I don't know if I didn't have this in my notes, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are you opposed to these ships that have just sailed? The shippers. There's the Wren Wolf Wren, and then there's the Ezra and Sabine one, which I don't like personally, but to each their own, I guess. Are you like opposed to either of them, or do you like one?
Oh, well, I'm not really opposed, and I'm not like I'm for more romance in Star Wars, because I feel like that's something that doesn't happen very often. And considering like they're in a war, you think like some other stuff would happen just with those extreme emotions. It makes more sense for romance to be happening. Yeah, I'm not for or against either. I'm just
Yeah.
like, let them be happy, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I really don't mind, but I mean, I would prefer not to have Ezra because I do feel like that brotherly bond is there. I mean, obviously you can bypass that, but I think it'd be cool if they keep it that way. But the only thing I do want is whatever this Filoni movie is, which I think is still happening. I definitely want Sabine to be a part of it for sure, and I definitely
I
want
would
her
love
to
that.
have like a significant moment where she really does something special and cool that no one is expecting. Because I do feel like a lot of people are going to get their time to shine, whether it's Ahsoka or Din or Ezra, like the main big hitters. But I do want Sabine to have something there, and I want Omega in there. Throw Omega in there.
Oh my
Just,
God, that would be amazing. Omega and Hera reunion?
I
That
would
would be
love. I would
amazing.
love a live action Omega. I've been preaching this since season 1 of Bad Batch, and I just really, really want it to happen. And I do feel like it can line up perfectly in this new TV timeline that they're doing,
Yeah.
where we see a much older Omega, and you can cast the new actress and have that be her. And I think it'd be really cool to
Mhm.
have that. All right, let's move on to full sabacc for today.
Full sabacc.
Our full sabacc for today is all about the Acolyte episode 7. The first question I have for you, Candace, is what are your thoughts on this episode?
It's the one that we've all been waiting for. And I don't know what I expected, but I did not expect, especially like 1 point. So I love when TV stories, anything can surprise me. So this surprised me. Again, Acolyte surprised me twice now.
Yeah, how'd you feel about the reveals. How'd you feel about learning why they were on this planet to begin with, looking for a vergence in the Force? What'd you feel about that whole explanation?
I love that it ties into the High Republic books, but you don't have to read them to explain it. But maybe it might, interest some people and get them be like, hey, let me look up these books.
Yeah, do you feel like do you feel like that was explained well with May and Osha? Do you feel like that's the connection of the Virgins? Because obviously we didn't get the real answer, but the assumption is that May and Osha are the Virgins in the Force that they've been looking for.
I don't know if like the common, like everyday Star Wars person will know what like a Virgins in the Force is, but like us as obsessive people like know like Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn's, like there's one around Anakin. We know that's a big deal. And I think they explain it well enough that like, okay, there wasn't life here before and now there's life. Something must have happened.
Yeah, how'd you feel about the May and Osha one consciousness split into two whole reveal, I guess, because I don't think that was said before.
Yeah, no, that definitely wasn't said before. It would explain why Soul couldn't recognize that it was May that got on the ship with him and not Osha. I don't know. I don't like the idea that they're just like one person. They're two separate beings. So we'll see what that means.
Yeah, I almost feel like I'm curious if this is like their version of a dyad, because I keep going back to the word dyad.
Yeah, I know a lot of people.
Because I feel like, again, even the way Soul explained it as far as virgins, life, it creates life. A dyad creates life. Like that's something that we learned as well. The ability to bring people back to life or to create life. That's another thing that maybe we get to explore, or maybe they tease in the next episode, which is the finale. But I feel like maybe this is their way or their version of a dyad. And this is maybe what Palpatine was referring to in the past. And I know we haven't gotten confirmation yet, but maybe this is the closest we can get to confirmation. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The only other thing I have here is Soul. What did you think about Soul this episode?
I'm still in the Soul Patrol. He made mistakes, but I mean, we've all made mistakes, and Jedis are doing these insane things, so their mistakes are going to be much bigger. And that's the thing, is people are like, oh, I hate Soul now. I'm like, he's complicated. And that's what makes a good character, if they're complicated and they have made some bad decisions.
What do you think it was about Osha specifically that made him kind of lose his grip on the situation?
I think it's just like children in danger might have been the whole thing, because I know that's like a lot of us, like a child's in danger, we have to act now. So like just the parts he saw, if we were just seeing it from his point of view, it looks like those children are like in trouble and like might be sacrificed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where he's coming from, but also I just feel like the voice of reasons that he was dealing with specifically Indara, she's the other person in my notes, where she kept really reeling him back and really trying to tell him, like, look at the situation that's before you. This isn't as simple as let's just take these girls because they're, about to be cooked alive or whatever. Like, we just cannot know that. We cannot assume that. And even though these witches look scary and spooky and evil, you can't just assume evil intentions because you see witches. I swear, the thing I have in my head is the fact that he's like, he went back to like 1691. Like, he's just like, witch, they're gonna sacrifice the children. Like, that's the vibes he gave off to me this episode, which is why I was like so disappointed in him. I was like, you can't just assume that everything is evil. Like, you have to have a little bit more of a connection to your reality, which the reality is that so far there's been no signs of that. There is no signs of injuries. There is no signs of them abusing these girls in any way. You can't just impose your will, impose your feelings on this coven.
I think like the abuse, he could justify the abuse when he saw the training, and it looked like the mother and Saya was like going at Osha, and Osha wasn't defending herself, and the only reason that she stopped was because May stopped her, which was just part of the training. But again, he should have asked more questions. The whole thing with the Jedi are like they're the only ones who can use the Force. Like that seems really weird.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I just feel like, again, it just assuming the worst isn't the
Yeah.
way to go in these situations, especially when you're not invited, when you are imposing your will, when you are imposing your beliefs, your values, your intentions versus the intentions of the people there on a planet that is not even supposed to be in your jurisdiction, but you're there anyways. I just feel like Soul really just took one L
Yeah.
after another L after
Oh,
another
he was
L.
making so many mistakes. And they literally broke into their home.
That's
Somebody's
another
like,
thing.
oh, why did it, Mother and Saya like go into Torben's mind? I'm like, they broke into her home. They were the first. They were the first. They did the first bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's decision after another of really overstepping your bounds and overstepping your position and your role in this environment, where your role is not to intervene or interfere in other people's livelihood, but instead focus on the planet. And if their like rules were to stay in the planet and to just keep doing what they were doing, then I just feel like I just feel like it's one of the worst examples of someone assuming the worst
Oh
and
yeah, it's like
overstepping in every way.
it's like the worst timing ever because every part that Soul saw was a negative. It wasn't seeing the mothers being like, "Oh, I love you," or "What if you want to be a Jedi? You can be a Jedi." You know, like obviously their mothers like love them so much, and I really love seeing like parents telling their kids, "I love you," in Star Wars because we've only really gotten that with Andor.
Yeah, no, that was good. How'd you feel about Mother Coral and her get mad, rage, and fight kind of attitude?
I mean, May was already a bundle of like mad. I'm not sure you want to unleash that on anyone. But we don't know what happened to them before they got to Brendock. It sounded like they were kind of like run out. So like Mother Coral probably had some issues with that and she's just thinking about past times. So that's the amazing thing about this episode is you can understand everyone's actions. Like I don't agree with any of their actions, but you can understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, I totally get that. And part of me wants to feel with Coral. But at the same time, I do feel like there is this desire in her to go to war and go to battle and just take them out right away. Like, I don't think she could, in her mind, rest knowing that those Jedi are right across the wall and just living with her regardless if they take her child or not. Like, I really do feel like she felt like this is already too much. They
Yeah.
know too much. We have to get rid of them, which I don't feel like that's the way to handle things either. So I was definitely disappointed in Mother Coral. Do you feel like she's gonna come back in the future somehow? Maybe next episode?
I've seen some people say that maybe Konaka still has like her essence in him, or somebody said they saw saw some symbols on Konaka's dwelling. So I don't know. I really don't know. It'd be interesting to see her.
Yeah, I feel like there's been this theory of Mother Coral since episode 3, that she is, or I don't know if it was since episode 3, but there's been this theory that she is the master to Chimere, and that she is the one who's been teaching him these force moves and these dark side moves and these get inside your mind kind of moves. And when Osha was saying, "Oh, my mother used to do that as far as getting inside Jedi's mind," he learned that from Coral, and Coral
Yeah.
is the one who told him about this whole situation, and justified the whole thing and trained Chimere. How do you feel about that theory?
I mean, Mother Coral telling May to get mad, I feel like is like the first rule in Sith Club. Like, get mad. There we go.
Yeah, what a perfect way to explain. I think it's a great way to explain a dark side turn, right? Where they're not really light. The witches are the coven, but they're not necessarily dark either.
Yeah.
It's very like muddy, but I think it's muddy enough to show you that if enough rage, if enough tragedy, if enough trauma happens to you, and if you justify enough of your violent actions like Mother Kroll does, this can lead easily to a complete turn to the dark side. So I do feel like it would make sense for her to be somehow involved with Chimere.
And Chimere says, I'm what you would call a Sith, not that he was a Sith. So Mother Kroll wouldn't consider herself a Sith, too. So, like you were saying, that's just thought of that while you were talking.
Yeah, so it's more like a dark side user, right? The way that you're able to become a dark side user when you already tap into the Force in different ways, you call it by a different name, and now you're starting to tap into anger, tap into fear, tap into rage, all this kind of stuff that really is a part of the dark side. And you use your powers that you've learned already to maybe teach others, and maybe that's what she does with Chimere. I don't know. I think that's a good theory that there's going to be so much to wrap up next episode that it's just absolutely baffling. I want to move back to Indara really quick because I do feel like she got a lot to shine in this episode because we obviously didn't get much of Carrie-Anne Moss this season. How did you feel about her characterization this episode?
It's not what I expected because she was the first one May went after, so I thought maybe she had a bigger grudge on her than the others. I was expecting more because you don't just bring Carrie-Anne Moss to Star Wars and not use her. So I loved her. I thought that she was like a level-headed with like her Padawan and her soul. Just she was trying to rein them in, but there was only so much she could do.
Yeah, I was actually sad, if I'm being honest. I felt like it's just a tragic character, someone who was involved in a horrifying situation, and she did everything she could to stop it. And she really tried to trust her colleagues, as she calls them, and trust her friends, which I'm assuming they're friends as well. And yet, at every turn, they kind of undermined her authority and really put her in a position where she's just never going to win. And then at the end of her journey, she dies and she gets kind of put on. She gets like you said, I really did feel like if we're seeing Carrie-Anne Moss in Star Wars, if she's the first Jedi we see on screen, and if she dies right away, she must have done something really bad and we're not supposed to like her or something like that. And I was not expecting this.
So theory I've seen online, and I completely agree, is that she was saving Soul for last. May was, because she's the one who did the most work. The work, he's the one who did the worst to her. And just imagine, she's like, okay, I'm going to take out all your friends and you're going to be sad about it. But you're also going to be like, oh no, I'm next. And maybe the council will find out, because she probably thinks he's like trying to hide this. Like he didn't want to tell the council. So she's like, May was playing mind games, which, good for her.
Yeah, I do feel like that's part of it for sure. I just feel like personally, maybe it's my Matrix loving heart being very, very salty, especially after Matrix Resurrections, which I really did feel like that was Carrie-Anne Moss's movie. Like she really got that chance to shine in that movie. I'm just really salty. I just feel like
you wanted more.
I wanted more Carrie-Anne Moss. Like you said, you can't just get Carrie-Anne Moss and put her in a Jedi role and not have her be much in the show. And they did that. And I feel like what makes it worse is the fact that her character is a good Jedi in terms like as best as you can describe good, right? Good in quotes, where she does try her best and she does become someone who she doesn't want to be as far as covering this up. And yet she's placed in that position only to become the first scapegoat, right? The first one to get blamed, the first one to die, the first domino to fall. And it almost makes her even more tragic because of her position and because of the fact that she covered for Soul, right? When she didn't have to. The fact that she could have washed her hands of this and she didn't. And that almost shows, it obviously shows like the corruption of the Jedi, but you could also view it as her kindness, that she's kind, and she says, you know what, we did mess up, we did all this, but to make Osha go through that, she implied that she would never be trained if we revealed the truth as a Jedi. Like the Jedi Council would just refuse to train her
Yeah.
if we told them the truth. And that would be so unfair to this girl who already lost everything. Like just seeing her heart, I just felt like that's a lot of heart for someone who got stabbed in the heart in the first episode.
Yeah. Well, the way that she gets defeated is because she's trying to save someone.
Yes.
So
exactly.
like,
yeah.
It's really
sad.
Yeah. I just really wonder what would happen if Adara did go in alone, like she planned.
Yeah.
If she was just like, hey, we're here, we're getting some moss, some Carrie-Anne moss, and just, chilling, just being like, she's very diplomatic. So she could have like made sure the situation didn't go too far.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. I was thinking about that too, because someone said that even if they did open fire on her and she went in alone, she probably could have taken them all down by herself, which is crazy to say, but she probably could, because she was shown to be so powerful. But at the same time, it would have been, like she said, less threatening, a little more inviting, a little more justifying, as far as seeing just one Jedi lady walk in versus like a giant Wookiee,
yeah,
a random dude, like it really a child,
teenager, a grumpy teenager.
it implies a lot of a lot more threatening than if it was just her by herself, which makes her all the more tragic in my opinion. And then the final moment when she just grabs Soul and it looks like she's gonna beat his ass.
Yeah, I was like, he kind of deserved that. Go for it, girl.
I thought she was literally like, I'm gonna punch your face off, bro. And I was like, yo, you should do it. You should just go for it. Yeah, so that's the one thing I have for her. Go ahead, RB3.
If I could just slide in real quick, I'm loving that. Y'all are both so positive on the episode. In hindsight, I probably should have changed the title of the episode, on YouTube, because I was talking about how divided the fan base was on this episode. I titled it that way because And again, I don't want to come in like too negative here, but I've seen the reviews this has probably been one of the worst reviewed episodes of the season so far. And I'm not sure if I entirely disagree with that. I have been on board with this show for all past 6 episodes. I've mentioned before, Andres, that this was my most anticipated episode. They referenced a Rashomon style episode. And yeah, I just felt like this was just not, for me personally, was just not well done. I feel like the character motivations was so flimsy. Like I thought, like the whole idea of Turbin just doing all of this because he wants to go home. I thought that was a little questionable. I thought Soul's whole thing of like, I get trying to protect the children, but I felt like that was a little directionless. And at the end of this, I'm feeling like maybe the show would have just been a much better 2 hour, 15-minute movie instead of a TV show. And maybe this episode could have just been shorter flashbacks instead of all the exposition and stuff, because it's not working for me. I'm waving the white flag on this one. And it's just not me personally. And I know, I really hate criticizing this show because there are a lot of weird people online who are like, criticizing the show for the wrong reasons, but but it's just like, you also could Google it too. Like IGN gave this one 5 out of 10. Vulture gave this 3. Then the Geeks, all these like non, I feel like super biased websites are also kind of on board of like what's kind of happening with this season. So I don't know if it's just me, but yeah.
I felt it mainly with the pacing, if I'm being honest. I just feel like, this RB3, my heart on pacing. I feel like the Disney, Marvel, Star Wars overlords are like obsessed with as fast as possible, like no second wasted. And the editing style, this RB3, I've talked about it before. It just makes it like so difficult to keep up with everything. And there's not an ability to say, let's slow down and breathe. And it almost feels like I've said this before, I do feel like a lot of it too is actually mandating, right? Where they say it must be under 40 minutes, period, like no matter what is in the story, or it must be under this length, period. And I feel like that really, it makes it difficult to connect to it, because I know this director, he did Pachinko, he did some other shows as well, and all his shows are very deliberately paced, very well paced, very slow in some areas, and I feel like that works. And I feel like this episode, it really just, out of all 7 episodes previously in the past, or all 6, really showed that they were like, we're gonna get to it as fast as possible. I don't know if that's something that maybe you felt as well, Candace, or maybe you have any other critiques.
I think there should have been like in present day. So then it's like Soul telling May. So we're not just taken completely back out. I feel like that happened in episode 3 too, because we have all this momentum and then we're just flashback. I think if there's like a through line, this is Soul telling his point of view to May. We get some of May's reaction, because that's something that I think we've all been waiting for. So I get the criticism. I don't know. I really liked it for because I thought like there's been a lot of theories about like, oh, it was just like a Sith puppet master causing all the trouble. I love that it was just good people, bad decisions. And that just like is something that we don't see that often in Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I feel that too personally. And I feel like most of the decisions made sense to me, even if it was Soul being unreasonable. And I go ahead.
Can I say, as someone who used to go to summer camp as a child, I would have done anything too, just like Torben, to get out of it. Every time I was covered in bug bites and sunburns, and I was miserable.
I definitely could agree with that. I definitely hear you on that.
One time I was happy a hurricane was coming, because that meant I got to go home early. So like Torben, I get it.
Can I say something? This might be the hottest take, but again, this is just what I thought in the moment. I can't lie. Part of me, when that Torben Mother Anastasia scene came on, I don't think I'm the only one feeling this, but I might be the only one brave enough to say it. When she started saying your desires, and I was like, oh, are we going here? Like Torben is like this repressed teenage boy.
The Jedi are very
repressed. A Jedi who like is not allowed to like even think about anything, and here comes a beautiful
Jodie's like
woman,
one of the most beautiful women in the world,
and she's like, in your head,
what do you want?
Like, I'll give you what you want, and I'm like, damn. And I almost feel like that's the way they wrote it. And maybe they were like, yo, this is too much. This is way too
not
sexy.
Game of Thrones. That's where the guy's from. Right?
Let's say he really wants to go home. Because at first it really felt like this is where we're going. Again, when she started talking about how like you're not allowed to have what you want. And the way she said it, I was like, oh. And then you want to go home. And I was like, that's not where we're going. I almost feel like they wrote it that way, which would have made more sense to me. But and then they were like, nah, let's just say he really wants to go home and he wants a shower or something like that. So, which again makes sense, but not as strong as to me it would have been if it was much more of a desire, of a natural desire, or whatever they want to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the show was trying to be a lot more than the studio actually allowed it to be. And I felt like that when we saw the beginnings of the teleportation thing, I kind of, maybe I'm just annoyed at this point, but I kind of don't like when Star Wars does a thing where they'll just show you something and then explain to you like 3 episodes later, oh, this is what you just saw. And I'm sure they'll explain next episode, but like, what was the whole dusting into Black Mist and then doing that? And then
that's something Night Sisters do.
Yeah, I was going to say this is something that Star Wars does.
Yeah, it's in Clone Wars, and we see it in the Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, okay. I didn't play Fallen Order. I just didn't remember that. But then also too, just
Mirren does it.
Well,
sorry.
One more thing, and then one more thing. I'm officially done. The fire that May started. Did it really cause all those explosions, or is that like that seemed like a?
I think that's what they implied. Yeah.
But that's
so.
Go ahead.
No, I watched.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just watched it the second time with the descriptive audio, and it says the witches definitely were dead by the time that Soul went past all the bodies to go get to May and Osha on the bridge. So they were dead by that point. So I don't know if it was Indara's doing of like severing the connection to Klonaka, or was it like the explosion?
But the explosions came from, I think that's what's being asked, right? RB3, the explosion, what were the explosions from May's fire?
Yeah, or is that something else, or did I just miss something, or is that just?
I think that's what the explosions were. They were
because they went in the what is it called? I forget what those are called, but there's a lot of technology there, and it seems to be that was showed it. Fire.
It showed her grab the little book, and then she threw it into the controls.
Yeah,
which implied that yes, exactly. So it implied that it went through the electrical circuit and the generator that we saw in episode 3, when we show the generator that Soul is right next to. That's the implication. I think RB3 is that the fire spread into there. And then that's what caused the explosions. Now, going back to yours, Candace, I do feel like she did. But again, this was something else that I saw on Twitter that I just really, really disagree with. The implication that Indara is guilty and she should be put to death too because she killed all the witches. And I was like, even if she did, like, her friend is being choked out by dark magic.
And her other friend is being forced to do that.
Yeah.
Like, his mind is taken over. So
what is she supposed to do? Like, I would also use force powers to like destroy to like, you know, cut
sever the connection,
sever the connection, or whatever you want to say. And if that severing of the connection, I don't think she knew that they were all going to die. Like, I just think that's a reach to say that Indara is the one to blame because she killed all the witches. No,
Indara and Klonaka, I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, Klonaka like hotwired the door, so that's not great.
Yeah. What do you feel about, going back to my other theory, Candace, how do you feel about that scene, the Mother Anastasia Torben scene?
Oh, I thought it was really interesting because we only saw like he did get the black eyes and he's like, she's in my mind. So it's interesting to see that. And yeah, Jodie's so pretty that I'm just like, I would tell her anything, whatever she wants, done.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally feel like that would have been a little bit more intriguing, or a little bit more, I don't know, different as far as what we see in Star Wars, and the fact that she would be able to attack his mind because of those weaknesses, I guess, whatever you want to call it. I think it would have worked a little better than maybe the I want to go home thing, RB3 personally. But I do feel like it still worked for what his character was, which was a kid just absolutely jarred by the whole situation and not sure what was going on, especially after being possessed the first time. I think that maybe messed with his head a little too much. Yeah, I personally enjoyed the episode. I did feel the pacing, like I said before, and again, I do feel like that's something that I've been seeing and I've been saying in the past when it comes to Marvel stuff too, where I do feel like maybe they should just take their time a tiny bit more and stop rushing too much. But I did feel like Soul's unreasonableness made sense, and his connection to Osha, obsession with Osha, made sense as well. And him also, I want to get to that bridge scene really quick. Him choosing Osha in that scene, almost kind of to a point now where he has it determined in his mind that that's his Padawan. How'd you feel about the choice scene, as far as which one to choose?
Oh, that disturbed me more than the Mother Anastasia scene, which was already really upsetting to begin with, especially with little May crying over her mother. Good job on those little actresses. They're so good. I forget their names, but they were amazing. But yeah, the choosing between two children, that's like what shocked me. That was the most shocking part of it. And I'm like, maybe May was right, you know? And like, he didn't really stop to think about it. He's like, oh yeah, no, Osha.
Yeah, I found it really heartbreaking for a lot of reasons, but the main reason to me personally is like this idea of a kid who's not being able, a kid who shouldn't be saved, a bad kid.
Yeah.
A kid who shows all a bad attitude and all this stuff that so many times in our culture, especially American culture, we kind of have this mindset as far as like the good kid, the, sits on, quietly and pays attention in class, and then the bad kid who deserves to be, kicked out of class because he's destroying the environment. And it's like, there's so much ignorance with that, and there's so much prejudice inside of that. A lot of the time, that's what it comes with. And I don't know, I felt angry at Soul. I felt like it's so unfair to assume that because May has an attitude and because she's like swinging her head around and she doesn't want to be a Jedi, that she doesn't deserve to live as much, which obviously that's not what he's saying, but it felt that way, right? It felt, I could see how May feels that way, or how anyone could feel that way, because he's choosing the good girl, the girl who smiles at him, and the one who's like being polite and wants to be a Jedi. Like that's what it felt like to me. And it's just very hard to accept.
Oh no, definitely. And I love the fact that that Osha didn't notice he was there. So we didn't notice in episode 3 that that's how it happened, because she remembers it as he just caught her when she was about to fall. And her and May like fell around the same time. So it just changes that scene so well. And I love Rashomon's for that reason, because it reminds us all that what we see isn't always like exactly what happens.
Yeah, it was definitely tough to watch, and I think the music really helped as well. I think I believe it's Michael Abels who's doing the music, has really done an incredible job so far with that. All right, let's move on to speculation and theories. We have one more episode left. Candace, how are you feeling as far as what we're gonna get or what we might see in the final episode?
Oh, I have no idea, and I love it. I love that I have no idea. I feel like Osha's gonna find out, and she's gonna be utterly devastated, because not only was she lied to all this time, she was lied to by like one of the people that she loves the most. Like, she loves Soul so much. She still sees him as a father figure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still sticking with my prediction that I've been saying since I think really early on, episode 3 or 4, that I think Osha is going to kill Soul. But I think we got more and more to like build into my theory, I guess, because we saw, that he had a hand, that she doesn't know that he killed Mother Anastasia, and that she's eventually going to find out. I'm assuming next episode, and that she'll get angry, kill Soul, maybe without a weapon, and that's what wins Chimera's heart, because it's like, you did it, kill the Jedi without a weapon, which is what he's always wanted. And maybe just to add more to my theory, just going nuts, maybe she kills Soul, and then May is like, no, he's actually really sorry about it. And then they join hands, Force Dyad powers, united, and bring Soul back to life. Boom, out comes Soul, and then both girls die. Tragic ending.
No.
This is just, I just made it up right now, but hey, you never know.
No. But I can see May maybe going to the light side, and then Osha going to the dark.
Yes, I definitely see that. That's definitely something that they're teasing, I think, a bit heavily, is that Chimera is going to tell Osha the truth. I mean, May the truth. And then May is going to feel bad for Soul somehow, and that she's going to probably turn in that way, based off what his perspective was and how he feels really bad about it. And then Osha is going to tap into her anger, while May is going to tap into her forgiveness. And I think that's definitely going to happen for sure. All right. That was our discussion on the Acolyte episode 7. Let's move on to Squad Up with Squad Leader Ace. Our Squad Up this week is very special, because we are putting you in a scenario where you are a rebel commander tasked with taking down an Imperial base, creating top secret fighters that will wreak havoc on the rebellion. In order for the mission to not drain the rebellion's resources, you need a small, efficient team. You need 1, a fearless pilot. This pilot will be ready for any complications and can effortlessly improvise. 2, a Jedi. You need a Jedi you trust and will also be ready for any major battle. 3, a gifted leader. Part of your plan is to liberate the local community and have them join you in taking down this facility. You need an inspiring leader that will motivate these people to take up arms and follow your plan. Number 4, a brilliant systems expert. In order to find the exact location of the fighter in this facility, you need an expert hacker who knows their way around any system and can quickly bypass Imperial security. Number 5, you need a droid that is used to dealing with high-stakes situations and can easily infiltrate an Imperial base by blending in. And finally, a helpful senator. You have an ally in the Senate, and you need them to occupy the Senate during your mission. Candace, the first thing, who are you picking as your pilot?
Hera Syndulla. Are you surprised? Are you honestly surprised? She's so good. I mean, like, yeah, Han Solo's great, Anakin. They're good pilots, but I don't know. We've seen her in a lot more missions, and she's definitely the one.
I always pick Hera every time there's a pilot question, and it's at a point now where it's just not becoming fun anymore. my guests are just like, again, Hera, another Hera. I pick her for like every pilot mission that I do.
But she's amazing.
She's the best. She's the best pilot in the galaxy, in my opinion. And she's one of my favorite characters. I think she's amazing. I'm picking someone who's actually pretty good at this, and we've seen him do it. Han Solo. Han Solo is obviously one of the best pilots that we know, and he's really good at improvising, thinking on his feet. And when he tries, and it's good enough.
He's not very good when he's talking to the and he's in the cell.
In A New Hope, yeah.
Well, okay, he's like, how are you?
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you got to shoot your way out of it, right? He just blasts the communication things, and he's like, hey, only Han Solo would do that. You can't talk, you can't find the words, just blow it up. But either way, I do feel like we've seen Han do other missions that have worked out, even though I think he takes the credit for it, even though he doesn't deserve the credit. I keep going back to Return of the Jedi with ST-321, and he's trying to get by, and Vader lets him get in, but he doesn't know. And Luke is like, I think Vader's in there. And he's like, shut up, kid. It worked. We fooled him. And it's actually not. It's Vader just letting them in. But either way, I feel like Han is good enough for this mission. So I'm picking Han. Good enough to be second to Hera. Candace, who are you picking as your Jedi?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Nice. Tell me why.
Because I didn't want to pick all Rebels characters, so I didn't pick Kanan. I don't know. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is like one of the top Jedi. Like he is what the Jedi wish they could be.
I picked Obi-Wan. I picked Obi-Wan last week because I 100% agree.
It's hard to argue with that. I was gonna pick Soul maybe last week. Not anymore, Soul. You made some bad choices, dude. Some really bad choices. He'd be trying Anakin's looking at you and like, what?
He'd be like randomly trying to be like, yo, did you see that kid? I could have sworn he like levitated that tree right there. And he'd be trying to take some random kid. I'm picking Rey. Rey is my Jedi on this mission. Again, I feel like her ability to think on her feet, adapt to situations, but also be just an incredible, powerful Jedi Force user. I do think like she would be one of the most formidable Jedi to have on a mission. We're moving on to your gifted leader. Great leader, great speaker. Who are you picking for this mission?
Princess Leia.
Nice.
She's good at a speech. She's good at, getting people together. And yeah, just childhood favorite. Can't say no to her.
That's a great one. Leia's a great one. I'm picking Marva. I'm picking my girl Marva Andor. You do not agree?
No, I do. I'm not saying the words that, she would say.
Yeah, no, I feel like she would rile this crowd up. She would rile these people up. She would be like, what are we doing? She would start a riot and someone would get hit by a grave brick. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the energy we need going on this mission. We need that inspiration, that fire in our belly. And I feel like Marva would kill that. I feel like she would bring the heat. She does some great speeches. Yeah, and I'd be excited to see her do another one for my mission. Who is going to be your number 4, your systems hacker? Can you guess? Is it Sabine?
Yes, I mean, she's so good at it.
She's
She was
good.
able to like hack into. Granted, now that I'm thinking about it, she was able to hack into this really big like detention center when they thought they were gonna get Master Lunara. But you know what? That was a trap. So maybe she's not that good, but she's like
She's good.
decent.
No, she's good. She's really good. She's definitely top notch.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. Definitely. I still feel like my choice is like number one draft pick.
Yeah.
Top guy you want on your team. I'm picking Tech. Tech is my
That's a good one. Darn it.
or as Omega would say, Tick.
Yeah.
I feel like he would just do this so fast, so easily. Just nothing can stop him when it comes to bypassing these systems. So my boy Tech, RIP, is joining my team. Candace, who is your droid?
It's Chopper. I love Chopper. Chopper, he is terrible and he will curse the entire way, but he gets it done.
Yeah, I feel like Chopper, this is what he does, right? He's
Yeah.
like, I go in, I do what I need to do. I can blend in, but
You can also like
if things
leave
go
bodies
wrong,
down.
I can throw hands literally with my
He can
little
get-
arms.
He can get a blaster and then
Yeah.
start like screaming and shooting. Like this
and flying around.
droid is freaking insane. And you know what? You need a wild card on every
You do.
team. And
You do.
Chopper is definitely a wild card.
I feel like Chopper is definitely the top choice for this mission. So I'm picking what I feel like maybe could be the number two choice. When it comes to blending in, I feel like he does a good job, and I feel like he tries his best. I'm going with BB-8. BB-8 is tough. He's durable, and again, anything goes wrong, I feel like he's gonna put a trash can on his head and just be like, "I'm a giant mouse droid. You don't know I'm here," and everyone's gonna be fooled because he is learning from the best, and that is Poe Dameron.
Or he takes an AT-AT out and
Or he-
just
Yeah.
kicks out everybody.
I forgot
Him and
about that.
Chopper. Him and Chopper.
Yeah.
Chaotic. They would be so chaotic together. It would be amazing.
I love John Boyega's reading of that line. He's like, BB-8?
He's like,
That's you
It's
did
me.
this?
It's me. I did it.
That's a great moment. Finally, who is your trusty senator on the inside, Candace?
Rio Chuchi from
Oh,
Clone Wars and Bad Batch.
you
just
picked
how
mine.
Oh no. Just how she handled the clone situation, and like we saw her actually in the Imperial Senate, which I think is very important. I don't know how I mean, I love Padme. Or like we really haven't seen many senators actually in the Imperial Senate.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. I feel like I would want to say Padme, obviously, but again, not seeing her in that environment, her not being a part of this time period, it's a little bit difficult to pick her. So I'm picking my other girl, someone who is in it to win it now after Andor season 1, and that is
Yeah.
Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma is my senator on the inside. She has my back. She's got Luthen on speed dial. She's got me on speed dial, letting me know, like, hey, by the way, this is what they're talking about right now. I'm gonna pull out the talk jitsu that I'm about to pull on these senators and just ramble for 10 hours
I mean,
while we do our mission.
She would do anything, including marrying off her daughter.
Exactly.
You know, she's like, she's done. My 14-year-old? Yeah, she's married now.
She's like, you gotta get a W somehow, man. You just gotta find a way. Let's run back your 6, Candace, starting with your pilot,
Hera,
your Jedi,
Obi-Wan Kenobi,
your leader,
Princess Leia,
your systems expert,
Sabine Wren,
your droid,
Chopper,
and finally your senator.
Rio Chuchi.
And for me, I am picking Han Solo as my pilot, Rey as my Jedi, my leader is Marva, my systems expert is Tech, my droid is BB-8, and my senator on the inside is Mon Mothma. Candace, thank you so much for being here today on Sabacc the Block. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, you can find me at thegeekywaffle.com. I'm on Twitter at Candace is the Geek.
So this is
Yeah, best place is the Geeky Waffle. It's all there.
Awesome. And you guys have social media too, right? At Geeky Waffle?
Yeah, at Geeky for Twitter, it's Geeky_Waffle and the Geeky Waffle everywhere else.
Got you. Alrighty, guys. And you can follow me at Squad Leader Ace. Make sure you follow us at First Cut. Subscribe to First Cut if you haven't done so already. RB3.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3.
Either way, guys, for the Sabacc the Block crew, we're going to be peacing out. So peace. Deuces. Awesome. Thank you, Candace. I appreciate your time.
Sorry, I was on my phone for a second. Just had my dad trying to call me, so came back just to make sure everything was alright.
Yeah, no worries. Again, yeah, thank you so much for your time. I think you're great, and I feel like the conversation flowed, so I appreciate that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Nice.
awesome.
Hopefully we can meet again.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great rest of your night. I appreciate
You
it.
too. Bye.
Bye.